Life living unfixed. That's a really good question. And I went from this courageous tomboy person who kind of said yes to everything to somebody who said no to everything because my nervous system couldn't handle it. And I literally, like, if you were ever been in an earthquake, it felt like I was in an earthquake 24/7. My brain's perception of stillness disappeared that a little bit and go, exhale around it and kind of reorient and get to know myself in a new way, a whole world opened up. But I also had interviewed over the phone 20 people and was prepared to connect with these 20 people over that period. And then because of the pandemic, that all had to get shut down. So I was like desperate to stay in touch with these people because even just from that 1 hour phone interview, I was already like, oh, wow, like these human beings are remarkable. We had a really big spectrum of different kinds of diagnoses, but each question that I posed every month found a universality within their experiences. And that, not that everybody had to agree on everything, but I was more struck after doing this for consistently with them for 2 years and then more sporadically by year 3, but how similar all of their experiences were.
Would you give up everything you learned from your chronic condition if you could be fully and forever cured?
And at year 2, I had a big event that happened, a 2x4 over my head essentially, that landed me in the emergency room. And I was like,
No,
I'm
no.
done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I was so scared all the time. I remember walking to the emergency room, which was about 10 blocks away, and like one step in front of the other with a backpack on, with a water and sandwich, because I knew I was going to be home alone all day and I was going to sit in front of that emergency room all day in case I fell over, because I was so afraid to fall over at home. And I was blacking out occasionally, and I just thought if I fall over and hit my head at the house, nobody's going to find me. So I'm going to very slowly find my way to the emergency room and sit in front of the. I was just scared to be in my body, frightened.
Question is, so what do good and bad days look like for you? Segue to the next question is, how do you survive when you are drowning? What will bring you back to life when you feel like you have reached a point of no return? Hello, welcome to my podcast, To My One Joe Stooch. I am Joe Stooch, and I'll be giving a mic to Kimberly. Kimberly is the principal director, producer, editor, and social media communication. In 2019, she founded Unfixed Media Productions to share stories of those living with chronic or rare condition and how adversity can broaden our definition of what it means to live a good life. On February 1st, 2020, Kimberly started a 24-month journey with 20 people talking about living unfixed. Each month they will get a prompt or question to answer on camera. I've seen every video and I found a huge problem in it. Would you like to know what the problem is?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well,
I can't believe you've watched them all.
The problem is that you're not in any of them. So here I'm going to flip the script and ask you all the questions that you've been asking everybody else. Are you ready to go?
Absolutely ready to go.
All right, let's do this. So for contact, Kimberly is dealing with a rare and invisible disease called Mal de Sebarquement Syndrome, or MdDS. It is an illusion of movement after movement has been stopped. So the first question I want to start with is, how is life living unfixed?
Life living unfixed. That's a really good question. And it's how I started the whole journey with these 20 other individuals. It changes. I'll tell you that. It's fluid. There's no static definition of what unfixed is. For me, the early days, it was frustrating as hell. I was a perfectionist. There's an answer for everything. I was a little Miss Fix-It. I chased and chased and chased cures for this really unnerving sensation that bottomed me out in my life. I mean, I was suddenly incapable of walking across the street. I was scared of grocery stores. I needed my husband's hand to go anywhere. I rarely left the house. I couldn't talk on the phone. I couldn't look at a computer screen. Suddenly, I went from this courageous tomboy person who kind of said yes to everything to somebody who said no to everything because my nervous system couldn't handle it. And I literally, like, if you were ever been in an earthquake, it felt like I was in an earthquake 24/7. My brain's perception of stillness disappeared. So the ground underneath my feet is bobbing, rocking. When I would take a step, the floor would drop out underneath me, kind of like when you're in a bouncy castle. You would also, these things that we call brain zaps. I didn't know that at the time. I told people it felt like my brain was slipping on a banana peel, where suddenly there's just this like, it's like a little mini seizure almost, where it just is this jolt of being shocked or stunned. And I went through a period of about one every 30 seconds for a year, following some intensive visual therapy that didn't work. So anyway, I chased everything. So I hated being unfixed. I hated the feeling of not being capable in the way that I used to be capable. And I refused to connect with myself in this new way. So I was not only dismissing the concept of being unfixed, but I was also dismissing myself because I didn't feel like there was any value to who I was or any worth unless I found that cure. So fast forward 4 years, I finally got a diagnosis and I started to open around the idea that I might have to live with this forever. Like you talk about in your journey of like, gosh, I just got to figure this out. There's nobody that's going to give me an answer to this. And I found that when my nervous system started to kind of settle around that a little bit and go exhale around it and kind of reorient and get to know myself in a new way, a whole world opened up. So now, 8 years later, living unfixed is an abundant place. Abundant with connection, abundant with insight, and a deeper receptivity to life being messy. I feel so much stronger because I don't have this conditional thinking of like, oh, if I feel like shit, then I can't be happy. I feel like shit a lot. I feel like, the room is bouncing back and forth right now. And I've learned to just kind of ride the waves and be okay with it. And when it's really bad, I lay down. So I feel a lot more resilient and a lot more unconditionally content with life.
Yeah, I want to highlight something that you were touching, and I think it's important that when you have a disability, almost like two different entities, like you have the disability entity and then you have your self entity, and it's kind of like you see two different ones, and then at one point you kind of have to discover that it's really just one entity, and you just have to like connect the pieces together.
Yeah.
And then that kind of it starts your healing journey in a way, or just more of an acceptance. So, hey, this is it. How do we live with this? Did you find that when you started Unfixed, you're searching for answers that you really can't find within yourself? Is it more as a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way to help you
Yes,
out?
absolutely. My original endeavor to start Unfixed was selfish. It was like, I got to find people who are doing this because I also came from a very fix it self-help movement paradigm in my family and friendships. And so I didn't know where to turn to have these types of conversations with people. My family lives in Boulder, Colorado. I mean, that is like wellness, green drink capital of the world. And everybody is just, in tip top shape. And I didn't know where to turn. So, yes, it was definitely me searching for community, searching for answers. Actually, community came secondary. I didn't even like I just wanted answers. I didn't know that I was going to fall in love with all of these people. That came as a surprise, and pretty quickly. We started filming in September of 2019, and I had two weekend film shoots scheduled, and in September, one in December, three, and then another one in February of 2020. So the pandemic happened in 2020. But I also had interviewed over the phone 20 people and was prepared to connect with these 20 people over that period. And then because of the pandemic, that all had to get shut down. So I was like desperate to stay in touch with these people, because even just from that 1 hour phone interview, I was already like, oh, wow, like these human beings are remarkable, really remarkable, fiercely, not like just fierce, people that are dealing with shit every single moment of every single day. And there's just this light that kind of shined in them, and I wanted to get to know that.
Yeah, I kind of see it with the disability community. They sometimes they dismiss themselves of all this suffering and such. And like here, I try to do it for every person that I meet. That like you're an amazing person for just keep pushing through and don't minimize your accomplishment. Like maybe to a regular person, not a big deal, but for them, it's a big deal. Just taking a shower and such. Just like it's commendable to do. Like it's hard to be in the disability community if you're not disabled, because you really can't relate at all. It's a whole different beast and
Mm-hmm.
way of thinking, and it's totally different. But at the same time, it's also hard to be in the disability community because everyone has such a vast difference of disabledness, I guess, and different, like, even if you have the same disease, like, some people are better off, some are not. The days are never really the same for most people. Some could have weeks of great, and then all of a sudden your body just starts to shit itself for some strange reason, and some are okay. So it's hard, but like I think everyone deserves just to be like give themselves a pat on the back for just making it this far, because like most people wouldn't want to do it, and you have to, and it's very commendable to do.
And I would say that this was also an accident. This was accidental, but because all the 20 people that I started with all had different diagnoses, some were terminal, ALS. My friend Dylan, who is literally speaking through a device using an eye tracking
Mm-hmm.
machine, to my friend Michelle, who has what I have. That's, she's mobile, she's moving around the world and comes and goes for her. So we had a really big spectrum of different kinds of diagnoses, but each question that I posed every month found a universality within their experiences. And that, not that everybody had to agree on everything, but I was more struck after doing this for consistently with them for 2 years, and then more sporadically by year three, but how similar all of their experiences were. That to me was striking. And I think I go into the chronic illness community on Instagram or social media, and there's all these silos, there's all these bubbles that people build around, like, we're the chronic migraine community, and we're the quadriplegic community, and and there's a lot of these separate little silos. And I tend to want to see, and not diminishing the differences, but I tend to want to find those crystallizing commonalities that are
Yeah, but
born
maybe
from
we should.
adversity. You know?
Well, yeah, but we call to highlight the differences too, because a lot of people have totally different experiences too. Like
Yep.
one topic we'll get across later, but it's food. Some have a great relationship with food, and some do not. And it's just crazy that we all kind of living totally separate lives in a way. Like it's
Yeah.
almost unfathomable.
Yeah, it really is. So you watched the food episode?
Yeah, I mean, well, I have. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to talk about myself because not my. I mean, it's my podcast, but not about me. It's only about the guest. But yeah, I don't. I can't. I haven't eaten food in 8 years, so I don't really have a relationship with it at all. You know, like I
So
can't even swallow my saliva. So it's.
you have an
I
IV?
don't. I have a tube in my stomach, a
Hmm.
Mickey, and so I mean, I could taste food, but it really doesn't make a difference to me at all. The thing you want to do is just swallow it. So I
Yeah.
never really it never really like interested in me. Like there's I don't even know what foods are available anymore. Like there's all these new foods on the supermarket that I have like no idea about. People talk about like different foods I have like no idea, or I just forget about food and like oh wow that exists again. Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
even if I just started. Let's say I could swallow again tomorrow. There'd be so much to eat. Like there's different cuisines, and you see on the cook shows like different cuisine goes to different countries. Like I could have a different meal every day for the rest of my life, and it'll be totally different. It's like I don't know. It's just
It
yeah,
would
that's my
probably be really
relation.
overwhelming to like go
Uh,
from to like if you woke up tomorrow and had to choose what your first meal were to be if you were to eat it, it would probably be super overwhelming. I mean, I get overwhelmed just going to the grocery store and seeing there's all the choices. Yeah, I don't know. My friend Dylan, he had reflected on that because he has a feeding tube as well. And yeah, his experience with taste and smell, all those experiences that can be part of the pleasure of food have just been stripped away. So,
yeah,
do you,
I mean I
yeah,
miss the intimacy of the food, and like I love to cook actually. So it is a huge like I guess bullet to me, and I couldn't do it anymore. And like I want to cook. Like sometimes I'll see online, like of course, like when you're watching at night, there are all these damn commercials of food and such. But like, yeah, I want to like cook and like learn recipes, and I think just the intimacy of like cooking with other people and such is really important too, and such. But like, unfortunately, that's my loss, and I can't do anything about it. I think the worst thing about my case is that I actually could swallow tomorrow. It's just with my disease, I can't get surgeries, and so it's kind of like the surgery behind a glass wall that I just can't break. So like it's possible I could swallow in the future, but it'd be very dangerous and it's almost not worth it. So with that being said, I drown my sorrows by buying Gucci shoes.
okay, let me see what you're wearing right now.
uh, like I can't walk right. I actually can't walk either. Part of my condition, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but like I'm
You have to
saving a lot
send
of
me a
money on
photo of
food.
them or something.
Yeah, they're really nice. But yeah, like nice leather dress shoes. But I mean, the thing is, I'm saving money with food. Like, think about how much money you spend on food per year, like $10,000 to $20,000. I'm not eating anything, so I don't have to do anything. I get my
Yeah,
food from the insurance company, so I
yeah.
have all this money saving up. So yeah, I'm gonna buy shoes. So it's either. So I guess it's either do you want to eat food or do you want Gucci shoes? So I chose the Gucci shoes.
I think a lot of people would choose shoes too.
I mean, the only thing I do miss out of all of it is really the convenience of swallowing and eating. Just to be like, oh, you go in the fridge, you eat something, and you're thirsty, you just drink something, and stuff. Like, it'd be really convenient to me to swallow my saliva at least, but
Yeah.
no, make my life harder as it is, but.
I would imagine that Dylan talked about this too. The losing the social part of food, like sitting at the Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner table and feeling like there's all of this conversation around the food that everybody is
Mhm.
sharing, and I would imagine that there's some grief around that too. And
I mean, I'm okay with it. I think just everyone else is always a little awkward about it. Like, because like you don't want to eat when someone else can't eat, just because you don't want to be like left out. But like they have to eat too, and like I'm okay with it. I have to force myself to be okay with it. I can't have force everyone else to not eat. So that's just
yeah,
part of it. And I mean, I'm okay with it. It's just my problem really, and that's fine. Like I don't. There's not much I can do. So
yeah.
it's I'm over it. I have the Gucci shoes to help me sleep at night, so.
You don't sleep in your shoes, do you?
Oh no, but I do wear my I do wear my shoes when I'm at home. Like I do switch shoes every single day. I like collect shoes just because to wear them. Like if I'm buying something, I might want to wear it. You know, I'm not gonna wait for a special holiday. I want to
Yeah.
wear it all the time because
Okay.
we got one
Well,
life. But
when you have a chance, get a photo of your shoe collection and email
of
it to me.
course,
I want to see that.
okay, let's go. But now we're gonna go back to you again. We're gonna go to the next question. Is w- would you give up everything you learned from your chronic condition if you could be fully and forever cured?
Absolutely not. Nope. That question, if you had asked me again in year one or year two, I would have said absolutely yes. I did not feel the virtues yet that were coming from this experience, and I think that's part of the word chronic is that it takes time and there's this slow evolution that occurs, and it works on us. I think it's shaping us, and we have to be patient. So I felt in those first 2 years, my life was over, and I would have said yes for sure. Now, emphatically no. And the question, that original question came from, gosh, 12 years ago or something. I was working with a bereavement center, and they were young adults who had lost parents and siblings, and they were doing a theater performance, and they came up with that question. And they wanted to, instead, it was, would you give up everything you've learned since that person that you loved died in order to have them back? And I was always shocked to see how and during rehearsals, they would sometimes waver back and forth, but when they got up on stage, they didn't they would say, turn around if you would give up everything you've learned in order to have that person back. And they wouldn't turn around. They really also felt that adversity was shaping them into better human beings. And um, that's really hard to see and feel on really bad days. But when you have enough bad days and enough time to move with those bad days and integrate them into life, I think we do start to see the sort of the light through it all.
I mean, I don't know if it's like the cynic in me, but like I would give up everything just to be cured, and I'll be okay with it. Like there's other way for me to have character development. Like, it's not like, yeah, there's other ways. Like I'm sure I would be. Yes, I can't agree that we have very deep, loving experiences, and like we're more empathetic and more caring, I guess, and such. But like there's other ways that I could have done that, and I feel like just me as a person, maybe I wouldn't be as empathetic I am now, but I still think I would still be somewhat empathetic anyway, just based on my personality and my style too. Maybe like I wouldn't be like I would think about it like maybe I wouldn't be interviewing people with chronic and rare diseases, but I could see myself in the entertainment field doing something else, like interviewing, I don't know, like maybe rock climbers or something. Like it would have just
Yeah.
shifted my gears in another place.
So how do you, yeah, you're right. I mean, we gather perspective. I think it all comes down to perspective, how we gather perspective in life. And then that perspective is then how informs how we tell our stories. And so your perspective, if you hadn't been born with FOC, it might have been some other thing in life that shaped you. And then it's like a lens, your lens is different. And you're right. If you had a different,
$800 worth.
yeah, yeah, you have a different lens, you have a different way of seeing the world. And that's
Yeah,
kind of cool to think about.
yeah. I mean, it's amazing to do. I think there's other ways, less traumatic way to do character development. Okay, just
Yeah,
like we
yeah,
don't.
you've been handed a hefty one. I mean,
Yeah,
hefty,
yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
like as human beings, it depends on the person really. So like, if you're just a regular person, you have to go through challenges just to be a better person. Like, you want to fail so you get better, right? And so like to us, we didn't have it. We didn't like check mark that we wanted to disease it. We were just forced to deal with it, which is fine. And I mean, it's just either we're given challenges or we have to create challenges for ourselves. So like, let's say rock climbing. Like, oh, I'm gonna climb Mount Everest. That's a big challenge that you start a little bit and then work your way up. But it's it's a challenge that you give yourself. Like, you could just sit at home and like did work a regular job, make $50,000 a year, be happy, do nothing. You know, you go home, or you can like really challenge yourself. I just think I'll be one of those people that would really challenge myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I still do now, even with all what I'm dealing with, but I think I would still challenge myself, even if I didn't have a disease. It would just look different though, and it'll look more, I guess, bigger to regular people because not many will like climb Mount Everest, for example. But like, no one will understand like you getting out of bed is a big deal unless you're
Yeah.
disabled and in a chronic ill community.
How do you know that? I'm so I want to. I'm curious, and I know this isn't my interview of you, but like you were born with this. So how do you distinguish the you that you think would still be really a go-getter? How do you know that who you are isn't what made you that way? And I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer. I'm just curious. Like, it's
Yeah.
interesting that you have that distinction.
I just think like a lot of people use their disability as their identity, and I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think it's almost a weak place to do it. So I kind of think like talking about your disability is a little toxic in a way, because like when you go on, so a regular person doesn't talk about like, oh, I'm a woman, like I'm a man. Like they don't talk about that. Like disabled people shouldn't talk about, oh, I'm a disabled person, because that's not really normal talk. And but it's like it really comes down to your personality. Like no one cares about your story too much. It's just more like, oh, can you get the job done? Are you a good person? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I just think of it my personality. What is my personality? So I'm a go-getter. Like to be spontaneous. I love filming and editing. Like my interest has remained the same. I have more obstacles in front of me, but I still want to achieve those same goals. And so I just assume that I just changed my personality to, if I just use my personality. And if I had a different body, it would be different. I still have the same motivation, same goal, same thing. It'll just be a lot less easier to do. And maybe my bar of success would be a little higher. So instead of me to climbing one set of stairs now, because that's all I can do, I would climb, Mount Everest, because that would be more of a challenge for me. Whereas now, like, it's kind of the same path, but just like different levels of, I guess, highness of it. Like I want to keep surpassing that, and I feel like the disabled community keeps locking themselves down, and I don't like that. So I have to keep pushing forward. So like an example would be like just us talking. Like we're both using high value equipment and great microphones and like cameras, and then most disabled people wouldn't. They would use a shitty camera and like a shitty mic and like not come into this without any preparation or anything. It's like, why are you using your disability as a clutch for it? Like you can, like I saw the competition, it wasn't that great at all, and like I can do that plus better. And why should I compare myself to another disabled person because the bar is so low? Like I want to compare myself to a regular person. So I put a lot of work into, the production value, the editing value, and it's like your disability shouldn't really be an excuse for a lot of these things. And so I'm just pushing the bar really for myself, and like I don't really look at the disabled community. I look at myself and what can I do to raise the bar,
Yeah.
and then I look at everything else and like I can see it. My production value is really high, and my bar myself is really high. Like I don't want to compare myself to other disabled people because a lot of them don't have a high bar and they're just like okay with what they're doing, and I'm not okay. I have a very high drive, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
keep doing that.
You have it sounds to me like you have bypassed or didn't need to deal with the hurdle that a lot of us with the chronic illness community and the disability community or human community, all of us, which is self-worth. And a lot of the people don't even feel like they have a story to tell. And so why bother getting really good equipment? Why bother training myself? I don't even have a good story to tell. So then when someone like you or me comes along and says, hey, I want to hear your story, that's that first spark of them going, oh, maybe I do have something to share. I don't think you had to, I think you always knew you had something to share. So it's like you already bypassed that and you were like, yeah, well, of course I have something to share. So I'm going to get a really good, fucking good camera and do it well.
I
You
mean,
know?
I always kind of knew that I was awesome all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, I think what makes it really hard for me growing up is that I always like knew I was great, but I also, it's like I'm so conflicted because I have a really good personality, but I have like the shittiest body like on the planet. And that really drags me down considerably, just like with ableism talk but like it's realistic in a way too. Like, of course, like people are like, oh, we don't judge each other. Like, hell yeah, we do. Like, we judge everyone all the time. Like, that's just a normal thing, and people will judge me based on what I can or cannot do, and that's totally fine. Like, I can't be mad at them. Like, other disabled people will get mad at other people for how they're feeling. It's like, it's totally logical. Like, don't think that you're disabled, that you're a better person than someone else. You still have the same mindset. You still think the same. Sure, your experiences are way different, but like you're still almost the same person. And like you're still gonna judge the same person. You're still gonna like the same people. Like maybe your priorities will change, but you're still kind of the same person. That's how I'm thinking of it. And I think it's my disability and it's the way I look has prevented a lot about me. But I think I'm also just psycho about it, and I just did like myself, and like I'm gonna just keep going to keep pushing back boundaries of no matter how many times people have said no to me or don't like me at all or anything. Like
Yeah.
my confidence is almost based on nothing really. Like I don't really, like I don't have anyone calling me back after any of these, interviews or anything. Like I don't have like a group of people that support me in at all. Like I'm here based on, I'm living on like anger almost and on anger and just spite and focusing on my long-term goals of just getting clout, getting a lot of followers, and getting high value because I never got in with any particular person. And
Yeah.
it's just, I think life is just screwing me in every single way and I have to keep pushing forward. And I think if people like really understand how much I'm pushing myself forward, it would be really commendable. But like, there's no award for this. Like, I'm not gonna get an award for it at all or anything. Like, I'm sure you've seen like you put a lot of hours into a video and it gets like 20 views. It's defeating.
Oh yeah.
And
I know. I
I
know.
think I'm just psycho and just want to keep going and like myself a lot. Got a lot of people don't like me or they'll like me, but they don't see me valuable to keep me in their life. And I can't blame them because I think a big thing is my disability, and I think that's a very fair assessment for anyone to make. I'd probably be that same person if the roles were reversed. I wouldn't want to be with that person either. And it's like, fuck me, and well, there's not much I can do about it. But keep
Yeah, but you
moving
do have
forward.
something to offer. I mean, that spirit and that go-getting drive and that confidence and that unwillingness to stop. I mean, you know how many
It's,
people spend thousands of dollars at like Tony Robbins workshops to learn those skills? Like you do have something. We've only been chatting for 45 minutes, but I see that in you. And that's a treasure in not just like in a friendship, of course, in a
yeah,
friendship, but that's a treasure in a workplace setting. That's a treasure in a motivational setting. I mean, you have something to share,
yeah.
and
I mean,
you know,
like everyone tells me that, but then like I don't get called back or anything, or if I'm trying to talk to people, they ghost me, and it's like, what am I doing wrong? Like I like know I'm great. It's like it's so
Yeah.
conflicting about it. Like I know I'm great, but like people don't like want me, and it's like, what do I have to do? Like I'm
Maybe
like
you
an
don't
amazing
take it
person.
personally. Maybe because I mean, I have versions of this, Joey, where it's like, we'll work really hard to put something out there. I just sent out an email the other day to those original 20. We haven't communicated in a while, but I sent it out to them because I want to do a final episode on death and dying and our perspectives on death because our friend Dylan is going to probably
Mm-hmm.
pass next year.
Oh my God.
Nothing, no reply. And yes, it's the holidays and everybody's busy and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But of course, I go through my head and like, they don't love me anymore. I did something wrong. Nobody cares. And this is stupid. And I've worked so hard and I've given them so much of my, and it's just like, you know what? I got to give myself that little pity party and then step back and go, nobody, it's not about me. Leah, you interviewed Leah. Maybe she'll be
Oh
listening to
yeah.
this. I don't know. I love her. I totally love her. She ghosted me. We were communicating for about 3 months, and I was putting some videos together for her, and then she just disappeared. And all I can think is that she just pulled back from like communication with the world because I know she's not doing any chemo anymore. But again, it went through this like what did I do wrong? I mean, I've been
Yeah. I'm not
nothing but
annoying you.
like,
I'm just looking up. Oh yeah. Okay, Leah. There you go. Yeah, I know who she is.
yeah, like I just
Um.
offered her tons of support, and then one day
She
she just
did.
stopped replying to my emails.
Yeah, she did the same to me too. I don't. I mean, I kind of take it personally too, and I also don't. But like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can understand. Like, I've been podcasting for a year and a half now, and like, I'll get like 5 rejections every single week. I have
Mm,
to like just move on. Like some,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I guess it's different with women and guys because like in a dating world, the guy is always the one that has to pursue, and then they get rejected, so like they deal with it, and women don't. They're the one
Mhm.
that's doing the rejecting, so it's not as bad, right? And so like
Yeah.
my good friend of mine, like she asked the guy out, and then he said no, and she like shut down for like 2 weeks, and I'm like, guy do this like on a daily basis, like come on, let's just move on here. Like
Yeah.
I mean, just I don't take it personally. Like I get the ghosting, I don't even get them reading the message at all, and I think if we haven't really talked at all or anything, and we don't talk, then I don't just take it personally. But I kind of take it personally if it's like we're developing a relationship and like we wanna. And I kind of take it personally. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we're all just really busy with our lives. They're just not an important part of their life to want to include
Mhm.
you, and that's on them. Like maybe you can try again later, but like any relationship takes work and it's a lot, and it's harder in the disabled people because in the disabled world because you have a lot less spoons because you need more energy to just live, right? And like
Yeah.
there's less energy you can like put onto your relationships and such. And I get it, but
Yeah.
I take it a little personally, but like I just have to move on and try to meet new people that will fit my goal set and that we will benefit each other. But I mean, friends now, we're not really friends anymore. It's more like, what can you offer me and what can I offer you? To like,
Mhm.
we need, so the way I describe it is a glue. So we need a glue to keep a friendship together. So, like, if you're dating someone, that one of the glue could be sex, right? Like if you don't have sex anymore, like, that's a big cause for like a lot of divorces because you date someone, like, you don't want a roommate,
Mhm.
you want to do. It could be other things. It could be like, let's say they have a good job, like you want to keep the relationship close because maybe they'll have a new job for you in the future, or like they'll be really big and like you want to be friends with them, so they invite you to parties. There has to be some kind of glue, and it's just that kind of how it goes. Like just if you're not a valuable person in a general sense, like people are just gonna walk over you. Like being nice, and it's kind of it's the bare minimum. Like yeah, there are a lot of nice people, but like you gotta be like that something something to some people.
I
And
feel
it,
like for some of the relationships that I've developed in the last 3 years with the unfixed community, it's not I don't know if I would use the word glue as much because well, maybe it's just a different semantics, but I like there's not this equal give and take, and that's okay with me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just like love that this human being is out there in the world and doing their thing, and I don't need 1,000 checkups from them or this reciprocity. And I guess the glue maybe started originally because they shared so much of themselves with me. They believed in this process enough to go, okay, I don't know who you are, but I'm going to send videos to you. You know, maybe that's
Well,
how it that laid the
conflicts.
foundation.
It's a conflicting relationship because it's almost not an even relationship. 'Cause they know
Yeah.
you know so much about them, but they like know nothing about you. So it's
Well, no,
almost
I
like a
sent
weird.
every question that I sent them. I sent in a private playlist. I sent them a video answer, my answer to them.
Oh, you do.
Yeah. But
Okay.
not everybody watched them. So they had them there.
You
But
check.
yeah, well, I mean, it's just on a private playlist. So I would see, like, oh,
Yeah.
put that up there and two people watched it. So, but I always, yeah, that was a huge part of sharing with them so that they knew where I was at with the answer.
hmm
That would feel really weird to just be like, okay, give me, give me, give me, give me.
I mean, that's what I kind of do with my podcast. It's more like, hey, I want to interview you. You say yeah. I do my research. We going. I mean, this episode's a little different because we're kind of both sharing, but most of the time we're talking about all about you. I did ask a question, maybe summarize some points. That's it. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the episode, we shake hands, maybe exchange information, and then see you later. So it's like maybe two that I kind of keep up from time to time, but most of it's just, hey, well, maybe we'll meet along the lines later. Like, like you're talking about Leah, so it's like cool to meet someone that knows someone else about it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a job. I can't take it personally because if I did take it personally, I'd be having like panic attacks about it. It's a job. Like, hey, you help me, I get the views. It's like I do a great job highlighting you. Hopefully, someone sees your video and be like, hey, I love this person. Follow. Hope it didn't even exchange. It's just I did what people like would want to talk back to me and they get to know me.
Yeah.
But like, and that's not expected though because the podcast and that's my job, which is
Yeah.
fine. But I just think of this whole thing as a business and like me spreading myself out there in the most eyes and ears I can get because that's hard to do in a physical capacity. So I've been doing it slowly, guest by guest by guest, and then I'm sharing it, and then other people see it, and so it's just cool to see like the mutual followers though. Okay, like to be, I'll just like see the random people and be like, oh, 4 people following the person. I'm like, oh shit, okay, this is really cool. And we're all kind of connected in a way.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go back to you again. We're gonna go to the next question. So we kind of touched it, but we'll just talk about it again. So who were you before this diagnosis?
Yeah, like I said, I was a little misfixed it. I originally, my career path was medical school, so I did
Oh,
pre-med and took my
so
MCATs and
different.
was, yeah, very medical path. Moved out to Oregon to go to the Naturopathic College of Medicine in 2001. So that was a 4-year medical program, and that was right before 9/11. And
Oh no.
I used 9/11 as my excuse to bail and start learning about maybe a different part of who I was because I was so rigidly on this medical path. So I was like, oh, dropping out, I'm going to maybe take a couple of years and then come back. So I actually worked at a film production company, 2 different ones. Not that I was pursuing film or anything, but I just found a Craigslist ad that seemed like a contract position that I could do, and it was close by. And so I stumbled into this world.
Ah, really?
And then 2 years later, I was like, oh, I need to go back to medical school. This is stupid. Like, I don't know anything about this world. So I reapplied and I got back in and I was ready to go. And while I was in the first day, I think it was, I was talking with some of the other students that were in the classical Chinese medicine program that was, you know, the acupuncture, classical Chinese medicine, and herbs. And I just always had this nagging feeling that something wasn't right about my chosen path. So I kept kind of being like, oh, maybe that's it. So I transferred over to the CCM program, and I did 2 years there, 2 of the 4. And at year 2, I had a big event that happened, a 2x4 over my head, essentially, that landed me in the emergency room. And I was like,
No,
I'm
no.
done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I literally woke up that day in the emergency room and decided I was never going back. And I didn't know what in the world I was going to do. I was 30 years old. And my husband now, boyfriend at the time, said, why don't you just take some classes that seem fun at PCC, community college? And I was like, okay, I didn't know anything about anything what I wanted to do in my life other than medicine and wellness. So I ended up taking a photography course that sounded like fun. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. And that quickly turned into a photography career where I was actually shooting some campaigns, and I got a job at a photo studio and was doing some assisting first, and then he kind of handed over the camera and said, okay, you do some of my jobs so I can stay at home and hang out with my kids. And it started me on a new path. So I was a go-getter, always willing to just dive in and try something that seemed zany. I still am. I'm very impulsive. I don't like to plan things. I like to just jump in and figure out how to swim when I'm in there. So I think I have some confidence around my abilities because I can just figure it out. And so, yeah, that's why things really rocked me that day when the world started spinning and bobbing and bouncing, because suddenly I was not confident at all. So scared all the time. I remember walking to the emergency room, which was about 10 blocks away, and, you know, like one step in front of the other with a backpack on, with a water and sandwich, because I knew I was going to be home alone all day, and I was going to sit in front of that emergency room all day in case I fell over, because I was so afraid to fall over at home. And I was blacking out occasionally, and I just thought if I fall over and hit my head at the house, nobody's going to find me. So I'm going to very slowly find my way to the emergency room and sit in front of the. I was just scared to be in my body, frightened, out of my mind, which was a feeling that I had never ever experienced before. I was always so confident in my body. So yeah, that changed.
Yeah. I'm gonna connect the dots for you because we were talking about earlier, like you're saying like how do I know what my personality is versus my disability, and kind of the same with you. Like you loved film and photography before you got into your accident. You had your accident. You went through deep valleys of depression and not knowing what you do. And then now you're on the other side, and now you're doing filming again. So we're both on similar paths. That like you want to continue filming, but like you know what your obstacles are, and like what do I have to do to surpass the obstacles. So before this interview, you were like, you know, these cameras are too heavy, so iPhones are better. So like now you use iPhones. So like there's me connecting the dots for you that you're the same person. You just have maybe more obstacles, but you're still doing the same thing that you always wanted to do. That you're
Yeah.
almost the same person before the accident versus after.
Yeah, but I was not motivated to tell these types of stories at all. I mean, my last film right before the accident, I mean, I definitely liked the deeply psychological stories and all that, but that film was showing down in Hollywood, and it was about a ballerina, you know, and a witch, a Baba Yaga witch, and it was fantastical and a little gory. I wasn't interested in documentary. I yeah, I hadn't been cracked open. My heart hadn't cracked open to humans and their
No, I
stories.
mean, like we were talking about earlier too, this us sharing our stories. Like to me, it seemed like I'm just saying my story like it's a regular Tuesday, but like for a lot of people, it is really hard to open up and start the journey of it. And it's pretty commendable for you to be open to the world, because having disability is really a chink in your armor, a con. Like it's a way for a lot of people to like not want to talk to you, and it's commendable for you to keep going and share your truth.
Mm. Thank you. You too. It's motivating. It really is. And I feel really fortunate because I'm found a way to live with this experience that I didn't think was possible. So now I feel less limited by it than I originally did too. So that's a big thing. And I've adapted, like we do. We find our brains adapt when we find
Yeah.
ways. And I always joke about I keep nursing home hours now. And I'm quite happy with my nursing home hours. And I shut down. And, I am not a partier. My husband and I are really happily introverted and live out in the middle of nowhere. And I play with cats. And I have deep, close friendships with the Unfixed community. My friends that prior to all of this that live an hour in Portland, I can't remember the last time I saw them. So, I've adapted to manage the symptoms because if I were living a little more radically, I would be dealing with heavier symptoms and that would just, be a drag.
So this is a good segue to the next question. So what do good and bad days look like for you?
Good days feel like I'm sort of in the flow where my thoughts are clear and I'm able to connect with people like you and have dynamic conversations. And I'm aware of these sensations in my body, but it's not like a nagging child that's really pulling on my attention. Like on a bad day, there is a kid, a screaming child on my leg, on my pants leg, pulling my pants down and will not stop. And so 10% of my focus can be on you and 90% is constantly getting yanked into this physical sensation that just won't stop. So bad days now, I have learned to cancel those meetings and cancel those connections with other people and just chill out and pull up a crossword puzzle, lay on the sofa, go for a walk in the woods, feel my way around this experience of wobbliness and I surrender to it essentially. I just surrender to it and if I fight it, it just gets worse.
Well, that's a good segue to the next question is how do you survive when you are drowning? What will bring you back to life when you feel like you have reached a point of no return?
Creativity. That's what saved me in that year too when I felt like this is over. My life is over. I found a medium. Like I said, I wasn't able to look at a computer screen, so I wasn't connecting with people. I wasn't looking at my phone. So I found this craft. It's called needle felting, where you just poke, and it's very obsessive. It's great for type A people. Obsessive compulsive, you just take a needle and you poke it 1,000 times into wool until it gets very matted and you can create like sculptures with it. And to me that repetitive motion drowned out all of these sensations and it gave me a sense of purpose and I fell in love with it. And creativity became this way of giving me a sense of purpose, giving me a sense of just giving me distraction from the sensations and filling my day with something other than just focusing on how horrible I felt. So I spent 2 years from that creating. I have one right here. I did these hairless cats. That started with hairless cats because I felt like they expressed some of the vulnerability, this naked raw vulnerability that I was feeling. And I loved their form and I had never done anything like that before. So it gave me a focus that I really, really, really needed. So that's what pulls me out of the dark. And it wasn't like, this is the next best thing. I'm going to be a sculptor now or whatever. It wasn't that. It was just, I need to wake up and sit down at this table and have something that puts my hands in motion and carries me through the day so I can fall asleep and wake up the next day. So,
I think we're similar that you just kind of want to be productive with your time
yeah,
and like have something that you can like feel and like touch or like see progress instead of just like what like I guess you can kind of say like you're watching a show like a season, but like, you don't really see the progress in a way. Like maybe seeing like the red bar being full helps, but like, you need to see something like physical. Do it like you would mention the cat, like you would have to see it, and then you feel better about it instead of like oh you just like if I just took the cat away and just like you create a cat, it doesn't feel the same. Like you want to see it.
yeah,
Like
there's something really satisfying about that, the tangibility of it. And it gives, I think when we're creative too, our unconscious is working in ways that we're not even aware. So it's bringing some sense of meaning to our experience without us even being able to articulate it. Maybe in hindsight, we can look back and go, oh, that's why I was working with hairless cats and that sculpture, whatever. But I think it gives us, helps us find meaning in the experiences that we're having.
yeah, yeah, we're just similar that we just like to create something. I love creating videos, and I guess it's kind of like an art that just like using the time and make. I like making people laugh, but be entertaining and stuff. And too, like I'm a very cerebral person. I think you are too in a way. They just like to bounce off ideas and like do something about it instead of just sitting around and kind of doing nothing. Like you want to just go, go, go.
Yeah, I have definitely a problem with energy. I'm never low energy. I'm always too much energy. I wish sometimes that I were too little energy, but I have an abundance of energy, and that's hard when you need to sleep and your nervous system needs to chill out. So it's been that's also been part of what this disorder has helped me learn how to do, is to force myself to chill out and turn it off because I have to.
Um,
Otherwise,
it's it's really hard when you have a disability, especially if you have the energy, but your disability is not allowing you to do anything. So you just have all the pent up energy, and it's so it's horrible to live with.
yes, yes. I mean, I'm not. I only know my experience of that. And I know your experience of that can be really, I would imagine, magnified. But I do remember that feeling of wanting to express myself and being unable to. I've talked to so many people in the chronic illness community that feel that way. And even the cognitive frustration when there's brain fog. A lot of people that suffer vestibular disorders have brain fog or, chronic fatigue syndrome, MECFS, um, long COVID people. They really want to express themselves, and the
Hmm.
words are just not connecting to the brain. And that is such an infuriating feeling because you need your brain to connect those dots. And so I do think
Yeah,
sometimes we end up in these more tactile, creative, wordless spaces of creativity when our cognitive experience isn't as strong.
I think it also ties into just not everyone has the ability to do what we do. Like, it's kind of cocky to say, but like, I think we're both very smart people about how we interact with other people. So, like, I know I'm skilled at interviewing people and asking good questions to get some out because some people just don't know really how to talk or they don't really like, no one asks them a question for them to form a thought about anything. So we are the one that have to bring them out of that shell and start talking about it. I have like hit like a different, I guess, nerve of just for them to express themselves. I think it's a little more challenging in your case because you're not talking to them. You just give them a prompt and they talking to a camera. I think for a lot of people, talking to a camera without anything is really hard to do,
Mhm.
especially confidently. And so I think it's easier when you're actually talking to a person where there's like an emotional connection, especially someone that actually knows what you've been through or an aspect of it. So that really helps with a. I think that helps a lot. But I think it is. I think it's just an intelligent thing of just able to make words and having a way that anyone can understand it. or like at least understand the words, but maybe not the feelings behind the words. And
Yep.
I think we both recognize that we have the talent, and we're just gonna use our talent to do good with it, and just keep pushing the chronic ill community apart. Because I think we can both say that the bar it kind of low in the disability world, and there has to be those people that raise the bar, and I'm like one of those people, and I see it with too with the high production value. So you don't go on a Zoom call and they have these shitty webcams and microphones, and like you tell them to use the iPhone so you have the best quality possible to do. Like you want
Yeah, we
it.
had some pretty bad quality in some of our video submissions, but you know, what do you do? I'm trying to get better with that with some of my subjects this next year, and we're actually going to be using this platform, Riverside. So gone are the days of them turning on their cell phones and doing their private interviews by themselves. I'm going to be doing what you're doing next year with two different projects, so it'll be different. And I think there was advantages to it, but I think there's some disadvantages because I do think some people could get really emotional in their privacy of their own bedrooms with their phones, you know, and I've got some beautiful content with that intimacy with themselves that I, you know, may not be the same when I'm doing something like this. So we'll see.
The way I kind of do it, I think it's like a slow. We build up a relationship and I allow them to be vulnerable. I'm also an awesome person, so of course they want to open up to me. But I think it's a slow transition of because like when you enter that mind state, it's really you don't really want to think of the mind state, and it's also really hard to get into that mind state within a 10-minute video too. Like sometimes you want to build up like a little like little softball question to hit the best stuff, and then me knowing myself, my personality, and like the more you open up a little bit, the wider you want to open up later on. So sometimes my episode would hit the peak at like the 30 to 40 minute, get they're like really comfortable with me and they want to open up, and like, you know, like once it start coming out, it just comes out. I'll just kind of repeat. I don't know what you heard, but I think it just built you like once someone starts opening up a little bit, they start opening up a lot. So I feel
Yeah.
like the peak sometime for my interviews would be like at the half an hour to 40 minute when they're like really comfortable and they really open up. And then sometime I'm sure it like happened like wait if you're like at a bar or something, you just are opening up, and then afterwards you're like shit, I shouldn't have said all of that. Like forget about it. Like I hope they forget everything. You know. I think that would happen. It's just someone that needs someone to like open that, just open the bottle a little bit and then just let it pour out. 'Cause I think a lot of people don't want to think about the hard stuff or anything, so they need that outlet of it. And I'm just kind of, I guess it's a little selfish of me too that I want to have my YouTube channel monetized. Like I want to like channel the energy to money too. Like just don't like the thing is like disability community that as a regular person you're just no one wants to suffer just the sake of suffering. So like disabled people want to like expose themselves to like, you know, so they get a bunch of likes and like do something with it. But I think like most people don't really care too much either. It's just more self validation. Give them a value and purpose of it instead of
Yeah.
it being I suffer because I suffer. Because I mean, to me, I'm suffering just because I'm suffering and I'm just suffering. I never really was a disability advocate before this. I feel like I didn't need to because I don't feel like I'm helping anyone in any capacity. Like no one gonna watch my videos and be like, you know what, I'm gonna go and climb Mount Everest today. They're gonna do the exact same thing they're gonna do before my video versus after. I can't influence them that much, or like I
Yeah.
can educate them on anything, and it really wouldn't. They'll listen and be like, great, and that day they're gonna forget about it. Like I could tell you how to, I guess tell you how to make $1 million, you know, but are you gonna follow those rules? No, you're gonna do something else. So it's like I don't feel like I'm doing anything. I'm just kind of pandering to the audience, because that's what they do like, but I don't think it really helps. I just see other people have the success, and I want to be one of those
I don't know.
successful
You should
ones.
ask. You should put it out to your community, the people that follow you, and say, "Is this helping you?" You might be surprised. You should ask.
I don't think I don't think so because like I'll look at other people's content and I'm like I don't really like learn anything. I think for me I'm just a very curious person, so I feel like I'm a little different on that. aspect, but I think it is a lot of pandering towards each other in the disabled community, and it's like you're not teaching any new people. So like I feel like my content is different because I feel like I'm very just normal person. Like I don't talk about my disability all the time. If you ever watch my video, like when I do my vlogs going out, I don't talk about my disability at all. I'm just doing my thing. Sure, there could be, I might reference like a wheelchair and such. Like I'm not talking about it specifically. Some people will just be like, every post would be like, I'm in a wheelchair and this is all my problems and such. And like, I don't really care. Like I want to like follow you because I like you as a person, your personality. And I think some people get too, the disability comes first and then their person. And I get it. Some people get a lot of likes and a love, and that's great. But like to me, I want to do the person first and not the disability. And I think that's where people get lost with it. And that's kind of why I stayed away from this disabled community too much, because I don't like, I care about my disability, but like I don't care after a while. Cause most people don't care about it. Like after a while, where they can be talking about what do we have for dinner? Well, not us for dinner, but like we're gonna talk about regular things too. It's not about disability at all. Like after a while, we're just gonna forget we are disabled and just part of us.
Yeah. Hey,
It's
I'm just speaking of disability. After an hour, I start to get pretty dizzy staring at this. I tend to, at an hour, have to cut it off because my
oh
symptoms exacerbate. So I'm kind of feeling it like I gotta. My energy is winding down. I need to close my eyes for a minute.
oh
So
yeah.
I think,
Should I ask you one more question, or do you want me to
yeah,
end
you
it?
can ask one more question. Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna go with, let's end it up with, who is your hero?
Mm. Oh, that's a tough one. Oh, there's so many. One? I have to pick one. I mean, my cats. um, one of
Okay.
my one of my heroes is Elizabeth Jameson. She's in the one that was in the Unfixed community, the original, and we also have a show together called MS Confidential now. She has very progressive MS, is a quadriplegic, and has been living with this for 30 plus years now, and she is a deeply curious, funny, irreverent human being and very wise, and is one of those people that has always reframed her experience with, or at least entered her experience with curiosity. She was one of the phases, of the many phases of her experience with MS. She decided to do this artwork with her brain scans because they were
She's the
scary
one
and
in your videos, right?
yeah, yeah, Elizabeth Jameson, and yep, she's. I think we just chatted yesterday. Her vocal cords are starting to go, but she's funny and so loving. We have these wonderful chats together, and we just kind of gush over each other. she, she's like, this is just very dear. I love her, and she is somebody that has a message to share about being curious about our experiences. And not being curious in this like sugar saccharine kind of positive way. She's just curious about it in a very honest, raw way. Some days her MS, she says, some days her MS feels like a peacock, a beautiful peacock on her shoulder with these gorgeous feathers, and some days she feels like that peacock is shitting on her. and she's okay with that. And to the point where she's even said, I love my MS. She was a lawyer before all of this and has had, been published in the New York Times. She's still is published in the New York Times. She just won't stop. So she's one of my heroes.
Wow, I
One of
definitely have to
many.
send her this video. That's really heartwarming.
Yeah, I love her.
So
Do.
before I take the mic away from you, is there anything you want to say, promote any words of
Uh,
wisdom, the winning lottery numbers? The mic is all yours.
Winning lottery numbers are. I just want to say thank you, Joe. I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you do. I know you don't think that it's changing people, but I actually think it does. And I think that I love your spirit. You've got, and I love your determination to raise the bar. It's powerful.
But
So it's
this
a
isn't
good
about me though.
perspective.
This is about you.
About me, people can visit Unfixed Media, go to www.unfixedmedia.com, and you can see all the different projects. We're starting a couple new mini-series next year, one on mental health disorders, which I'm really excited about. I'm starting a new podcast next year, also co-hosting with the executive director with Vita. So it's a vestibular disorders podcast where we pair healthcare professionals with patients so they can hash it out and learn from each other, not in a clinical setting, but in a podcast setting. So that's going to be really fun. Yeah, but you can learn about it all on unfixedmedia.com, and I have newsletters that come out. So